Hello, dear listener. I am Grim Strife, and thank you for returning for the next lore breakdown of the Worlds of the Weave, something that I hope will be a many-part series and the main focus of this channel. I'm still starting with a lot of the broad foundational topics. Eventually we'll be moving into the more micro aspects of the universe. For today's topic, I've chosen to talk about three tightly related groups: the Ahnrell, the Kinspheres, and the Gods of Origin. I hope you enjoy my rambling, and to start with, I have an excerpt. It had all gone wrong, you see. We were running out of supplies, out of fuel for our ship's drives, and worst of all, we were lost. Some exploration, huh? Soon we would all be dead, and no one would know about what we had found out here. It really didn't seem to matter to the others due to the shadow of death cast over us, but I cared. I came out here to know what lay in the outer reaches of the weave. I wanted to know and to share it with others. That was all I could think about before it found us. The light it gave off was so bright, but somehow didn't hurt to look at. It didn't approach our ship, but simply appeared next to it. A massive orb of pale blue light that seemed to pass right through the metal and wood of our vessel. I stood and stared, awestruck. But I wasn't fearful. I could feel its presence all around me, and it was concerned, like it had found a small, hurt and lost animal. I was no longer aware of the other crew, not even the ship. It felt as though I was alone with it, with her. That's when I heard her. "Hello, Bartham. It seems you are in some trouble, young one. You are far from home, and it is not safe here." Her voice was like the sweetest song. It filled my chest with a swell that moved to my throat, causing tears to well up and fall down my cheeks. I searched for words to say, but nothing came to me, and before I could recover, the sphere before me opened up, and from it stepped the most beautiful golden woman, bathed in a brilliant radiance. As she stepped down from the sphere, I realized that my ship was gone. My crew, the weave around me, it was just her and I now. I fell to my knees as she approached, my hands clasped together before me. I wanted to look away, but my eyes would not leave hers. She stopped just a breath from me, her brilliant radiance overwhelming me. I felt as though I might burst. Are you a god?" I managed to whisper. She smiled and shook her head. "I am Ahnrell, and I am going to take you home." The final entry of the diary of Bartham Manley. In the beginning, the weave stood alone, the energies within it churning and pushing ever outward, eventually forming channels of open space within it. It was here, in the walls of these channels, where the Ahnrell and the Kinspheres were born. They initially formed within the bound layer as their energy coalesced there. They would then push out from the walls of the weave, and for a time would gestate within a protrusion or an egg that clung to the channel walls. Finally, they would burst forth into the channels. While birthed the same way, the results of gestation were radically different for the two groups. The Ahnrell emerged fully formed, conscious, and aware of their being, whereas the Kinspheres would drift silently before finding a still place within the currents of the weave. Both appeared, at least at first, as spheres. The Ahnrell as glowing spheres of energy with coronas that shifted and pulsed around them as they moved through the weave or as they spoke to one another. The Kinspheres, on the other hand, were solid, with smooth, glassy black surfaces prickling with energy that rippled across them. Nodes of light blinked in and out at various points along the currents of power flowing from pole to pole. Birthed from it, the Ahnrell formed a parental bond with the weave, viewing it as their progenitor, and would name it Alma. They would spend much of their early existence striving to understand the currents of the weave, believing it to be the way that it would communicate with them. Whether or not this is actually the case has yet to be determined. As new Ahnrell and Kinspheres were birthed, the older Ahnrell would shepherd the spheres and mentor the young Ahnrell. For a time, the Ahnrell would explore the weave, searching and trying to understand their existence as any young race would. Spending time philosophizing to one another, they would find that many of them had strong innate traits that set them apart from one another. While inherent to them, they would also spend time coming to actualize their abilities to manipulate the weave, not only finding they could change the shape or surface layer of the weave, but their very own form as well. They would find when applying their abilities to the kinspheres, an even greater form of manipulation could be achieved. When combining energies, the interaction would produce energy, while diminished, not too dissimilar from their own. In this way, the Ahnrell began to shape the surface of kinspheres, creating biospheres and eventually lesser beings that would inhabit them. It became common practice to create a construct of concentrated energy to accompany this newly created world. These constructs would be called stars and give warmth and energy to the lesser beings and other life forms on the surface. Though there were some exceptions to this, such as Ardun, the homeworld of the Galiel. Many Ahnrell would not stop at creating life on just one kinsphere. They would spend some time with one, tailoring it, watching the lesser beings grow, interacting with them at various levels depending on the Ahnrell, before eventually leaving to go start again. Creating something new, or in a few cases, spreading what they already believed to be perfection. These Ahnrell would eventually let go of the name Ahnrell, and begin taking on personal names either given to them by the beings they created, or names they simply adopted themselves. This would amplify their initial traits until they began to embody them. From here, they sought to instill these values and traits into the beings and environment they would create. This is the foundation for the gods of origin. Understanding the lesser beings would still need guidance once they departed to begin again, many Ahnrell created beings between themselves and the lesser beings. While still created by combining their own energy with the kinspheres, these entities were more durable than the lesser beings. Immortal, capable of existing while being exposed directly to the weave, having an incredible connection to the weave, and various more abilities depending on the need or whim of their parental god of origin. In turn, each world would be left a small collection of these beings to oversee, guide, and protect their lesser counterparts on the surface. These are the gods of aspect, and yes, I will be talking about them in their own video, hence the lack of detail. Not all Ahnrell would become gods of origin though, as some would choose to head deeper into the outer reaches of the weave to continue exploration and further their understanding of their Alma. Little is known of the whereabouts of these Ahnrell, as the weave is vast and the developed parts are relatively minute in comparison. Now that we have transitioned fully into the gods of origin part of this video, I'm going to give an overview of some of the more notable members of this group, starting with my personal favorite, Staunus. Staunus embodies seeking to be greater than one already is, going forward and claiming what is yours, exploring, and understanding what is around you. All of this coming to form a sense of manifest destiny. While the Ahnrell have no gender, and therefore neither do the gods of origin, many choose to adopt one, and in this case, Stannis prefers to be male. Stannis is seen by others as noble, devoted, steadfast, headstrong, arrogant, and sometimes annoying due to some of his practices when creating life. He is the most prolific of the gods of origin. While he doesn't exclusively create humans, he does view the human form as his greatest creation and prefers to create them often, making minor changes from time to time. Staunus believes that humans are not only his greatest creation, but the greatest creation. This has caused him to pick up the annoying habit of sometimes dropping populations of humans on worlds already inhabited by the creations of other gods of origin, and instructing them to go forth and make this world their own. Staunus tends to stay with his creations for only a few centuries before moving on to begin again, and it is rare for him to leave behind more than a few greater children. One notable exception being Atha, where he left 12. Stannis is not a high communicator when it comes to beings that he creates, preferring to leave that to his greater children. In all, Stannis is a powerhouse within the weave, and it is difficult to find regions that are untouched by his influence. The next god of origin I wanted to touch on is Lumlet. This god of origin embodies the pursuit of intellectual endeavors, approaching existence with logic, mastering one's environment, and taking an honest view of oneself and others. Lumlit is seen by others as intellectual, commanding, decisive, cold, smug, and withheld. When it comes to creation, Lumlit is the opposite of Stannis. He prefers to take his time with his creations, and rarely does he create the same lesser beings twice. He approaches his creations more like studies. Though they are the subjects of his studies, he does not treat them as so, for Lumlit believes in sharing knowledge with the beings he creates, and so they become an active participant in his studies. In this way, the lesser beings he creates tend to have a better understanding of the weave and the world around them. While, in many cases, when lesser beings manipulate the weave, it takes the form of arcane elements, with beings created by Lumlit, it often takes the form of direct weave manipulation, manifesting in schools categorized as spatial magic and temporal magic. Lumlit views his greatest creation as the Ahroun. Given their close relationship with Lumlit, while he stayed with them, they were able to advance quickly and exist upon many worlds, even though Lumlit only created them on one. Lumlit tends to stay for many centuries before he is satisfied with his studies, and finally moves on to begin anew. In his stead, he always leaves behind 5 greater children to oversee his creations. The next and final of the big 3 is Loveless. Loveless embodies compassion for all, strong emotional attachment, joviality, and strength of emotion. Loveless is seen by others as loving, generous, ardent, mischievous, fickle, and careless. Loveless is more sporadic with creation, being more prolific than Lumlit, but less consistent than Stannis. The beings she creates are made more on a whim, and often given little direction other than live, laugh, and love. She is one of the only gods of origins to create beings on a world Stannis had already populated, because she found it humorous to hit him with his own trick. She also found the Bowden drifting through the weave in their massive ships after the death of their god and took pity on them, creating wives for them so that they might have a future. While she does not have a creation she views as her greatest, she does have notable creations such as the Yori and the Kituane. The Yori have connections to the weave rivaling that of the Ahroun, and the Kituane are able to out-human a human. Loveless tends to communicate frequently with her creations, though her communications are less constructive than Lumlit and have less direction than Stannis. The time she spends with her creation varies wildly, but she never truly stays away, returning periodically to check up on her creations and vibing with them, if you will, for a while. Like with everything else she does, the number of greater children she makes to watch over her creations can vary wildly, and so does their potency. The last of the gods of origin I wanted to speak about in this video is Kinladen. Kinladen was one of the last born of the Ahnrell. Had he been born before the Ahnrell and the gods of origin separated, he may have chosen to venture into the weave with the others, but instead, surrounded by the gods of origin, the option was not apparent to him. Instead, for centuries, he wandered the known worlds, exploring and forming his sense of justice. Kinladen embodied protecting others, even at the cost of oneself, having a strong foundation of character, justice, and overcoming any odds. While he was born too late for the great journey into the weave, he was born in time for the greatest conflict the weave has ever known, the war with the other. Kinladen was a huge part of the offense against the other, rivaling the previously mentioned gods of origin, even though he was so young. He would often end up single-handedly defending besieged worlds, though not entirely alone, for instead of creating life on a world, he created lesser beings for the sole purpose of being an army to combat the other. These Bodan were created with the aid of an unknown kinsphere, and then immediately uplifted and placed upon massive weave vessels and imbued with power from Kinladen that made them closer to an army of greater children. The Bodan saw Kinlan as their father, and fought with incredible strength, dexterity, and radiant magic gifted to them by Kinladen. Unfortunately, while defending a world from the other, Kinladen would fall, having all the weave energy pulled from the physical form he had adopted at the time, leaving the Bodan stripped of power and the other gods devastated by the loss. Well, I think that is enough for now. While there are more details to share for these gods, and more gods of origin to talk about, I believe the point has been made. From Ahnrell to the gods of origin, these beings are the main powerhouse within the weave. Born from the very walls of the weave, and able to do great things with its energies, they are integral to life continuing to exist within the weave. Once again, thank you to any who stop for a while and take a listen.